On July 9, 1997, Bailey Troy Gardner was born in Lenexa, Kansas, just outside Kansas City. At 27, he was living in Hendersonville, Tennessee, working as a technical program manager at Amazon. Friends and family said he had a heart of gold. He loved being on the water with his boat and was especially close to his dad, Troy. Late Friday night into early Saturday, June 29, 2024, at Cedar Creek Marina on Old Hickory Lake in Mount Juliet, just outside Nashville, a horrible tragedy unfolded. Just after midnight, the marina's restaurant, the Scoreboard, had closed for the night. Around that same time, 3 masked suspects ambushed employees inside, pistol-whipped 2 of them, and forced them to open the safe. As they fled, Bailey pulled into the parking lot with his boat in tow. One suspect approached the driver's side of his truck and opened fire, shooting Bailey multiple times while he was still in the vehicle. The employees who were assaulted survived, but Bailey was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators worked quickly using Mount Juliet cameras. The tag came back to 41-year-old Adrian A. McLean of Nashville. 3 weeks after the shooting on July 17, 2024, McLean was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and 3 counts of aggravated robbery. Authorities also noted he had overstayed his visa. 2 accomplices remain at large. 14 months later, in mid-September 2025, a Wilson County jury convicted McLean of first-degree murder and aggravated robbery. Under Tennessee law, the conviction carries a mandatory life sentence. Formal sentencing is currently set for January 9, 2026. Investigators are still seeking the other suspects and are offering a $15,000 reward for information leading to their arrest. If you know anything, no matter how small, call the Wilson County Sheriff's Office at 615-444-1459. Katelin Jordyn Crocker was born May 18, 1999, in Columbia, South Carolina, to Harold and Jonna Crocker. At 19, she was living in Winsboro, fun, a little stubborn in the best way, and dreaming big. She graduated Fairfield Centrals with honors in 2017, earned her cosmetology license, and landed a beauty expert job at the Ulta in Sand Hills. She wanted to do makeup for celebrities one day, but would sadly never get the chance. As for her love life, she was in an on-again, off-again relationship with Alexander Harmon, and sometimes stayed at his place in Camden. That's where she was the night of June 2, 2018. Deputies were sent to Harmon's home on Cleveland School Road after his father, calling from New York, told 911 that his son said he'd shot Katelin and planned to take his own life. When officers arrived, they found Katelin inside, dead from a gunshot wound to the head. They recovered a 12-gauge shotgun and a spent shell. On body cam, Harmon admitted the shooting and was arrested. Investigators have not publicly offered a specific motive. No robbery, no intruder, just a deadly act inside a troubled relationship. Harmon was booked in 2018 and initially released on a $150,000 surety bond. He missed a court date on November 17, 2023, and a warrant was issued. After more than a year on the run, U.S. Marshals arrested him in Iowa in January 2025, and he was extradited to Kershaw County. On September 19, 2025, the jury found Alexander Harmon guilty of Katelin's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison.
Base, can we get back up in 560 now?
Nyteisha Lou Lattimore was born on November 8, 1991. At 29, she lived in Walnut Hills, Cincinnati, Ohio, with her 3-year-old son, Nylo. If she went somewhere, he went too. She worked as a nursing assistant and spent the rest of her time with Nylo. On December 5, 2020, her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Deshaun Brown, was in Nyteisha's apartment when the unimaginable happened. What set him off may never be known, but what followed is. Brown attacked Nyteisha inflicting fatal injuries. He didn't move her right away. He kept her body in the apartment for days, searched how to clean up the scene, and attempted to scrub away all the evidence. Before sunrise the next morning, December 6th, Brown put Nylo in his stroller and walked to the Purple People Bridge, the pedestrian span between Cincinnati and Newport, Kentucky. He then did the unthinkable, and Nylo died in the freezing Ohio River. Massive searches followed, but his body was never recovered. 5 days later, on December 11th, Brown bought a body bag online, called an Uber, and returned to the same bridge with Nyteisha's remains. He tried to throw the bag over the side, but it snagged on a ledge. The next day, a security guard spotted the bag, realized what it was, and called 911. That's how police found Nyteisha. Brown lied to the Uber driver about what was in the bag, and he used Nyteisha's phone to post as her after she was dead, attempts to buy time. Investigators used bridge surveillance and digital breadcrumbs, Uber trip records among them, and quickly identified Brown. Near the river, they also recovered a stroller and a Paw Patrol blanket bearing Nylo's blood. After Brown's arrest, the court process stretched on. In June 2022, during a hearing, Nylo's father, Tonio Hughes, rushed the table and struck Brown, grief in public view. Nearly 5 years later, on September 10, 2025, Brown pleaded guilty to 2 counts of aggravated murder. In exchange, prosecutors took death off the table, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As for motive, a witness told authorities Brown blamed Nyteisha for a miscarriage and had talked about killing her and Nylo in retaliation. In 2021, tragedy struck the family again when 7-year-old Sheryl Lattimore, a cousin of Nylo, was killed after being struck by a car in Avondale. The family will carry these losses forever, but Brown will spend the rest of his life in prison. Sheryl Ferguson was born on July 27, 1958, in Long Beach, California. Friends and family describe a big-hearted woman who was fiercely devoted to her son, Philip. At 65, she lived in Anaheim Hills with her husband, former Orange County Judge Sheryl Ferguson. Things in the marriage were rocky, to say the least, and Sheryl had a known drinking problem. Money was always a flashpoint for their arguments, and alcohol only fueled the situation. On August 3, 2023, Sheryl sat on the bench in court as usual, drinking during the lunch hour and continuing upon arriving home. He and Sheryl ended up at a restaurant that evening, where an argument broke out, and as was typical for Sheryl, in moments of frustration, he made a gun-like gesture toward her, gestures that Sheryl had relayed to her family. Upon arriving home, the argument continued. Not long after, 911 received a call from Sheryl saying he'd accidentally shot his wife. Officers arrived to find Sheryl with a single fatal wound. When questioned by police, he stuck to his story that the shooting was an accident. The only problem was he sent a text to court staff that read, "I just lost it. I just shot my wife. I won't be in tomorrow. I will be in custody. I'm so sorry." That text would be the focal point of a case built on his own words, not just for what happened, but why. So what did Sheryl say really happened? According to him, he was removing his gun from his ankle holster to set it on a cluttered coffee table when he fumbled it because of a shoulder injury, and it accidentally discharged. However, investigators weren't buying it. They believed that Sheryl had shot Sheryl in an angry and intoxicated state. Prosecutors agreed, and he was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. A subsequent search of the home turned up 47 firearms, including the Glock, and more than 26,000 rounds of ammo. During the first trial in March of 2025, one juror felt the evidence wasn't quite enough, leading to an 11-1 deadlocked jury. Prosecutors wasted no time in retrying him the very next month. During the second trial, they emphasized his alcohol use, the gun gesture at the restaurant, his firearms training, plus the fact that Glocks are equipped with a safe action system. The system includes a trigger safety lever on the trigger itself, a firing pin safety to block the striker from moving, and a drop safety that ensures the firing pin can only move when the trigger is intentionally pulled. This ensures the pistol only fires when the trigger is deliberately and fully pressed. There was also the very incriminating text message he had sent to his court staff, which led with, "I just lost it." That doesn't sound like an accidental shooting, and the second jury agreed and found him guilty of second-degree murder. To avoid conflicts in Orange County, sentencing was moved to the Los Angeles Superior Court. As the terms of his sentence were read, Jeffrey broke down. Sheryl's brother, Larry Rosen, and Jeffrey's son, Kevin, asked the court for leniency. Both said they believed the shooting was accidental. Larry specifically said that he originally thought Jeffrey had murdered his sister, but felt the evidence during the first trial showed it was a tragic accident. Another brother, Jeff Rosen, said he now regretted ever repeating Sheryl's frustration about Jeffrey's gun gesture during arguments. Philip described parents who argued and loved, and he stood firm that his mother's death was accidental. The judge weighed those pleas but called the case against Jeffrey absolutely overwhelming, citing his post-shooting text to court staff and hours of recorded statements in custody. Those statements included him saying that everyone would hate him, and he even pleaded for a jury to, and I quote, "convict my ass." After being convicted, Jeffrey told the court he loved his wife and understood the verdict, but insisted it was a horrific accident. He asked to remain in Orange County Jail during appeal, prompting the judge to rebuke him again for believing rules didn't apply. However, when all was said and done, 23 jurors across both trials voted guilty. Only one favored involuntary manslaughter. Sheryl's life ended in the home she shared with her husband. Those who loved her speak of generosity and devotion, especially to Philip. That part of her story doesn't waver, even as everything else has.
So, I don't think time matters. I think that time is a perception that we have that we don't honor. So, we're never going to get more than 24 hours in a day, and that's enough time. We're never going to get more than 60 seconds in a minute, and that's enough time. So I think that we either procrastinate or we create urgency with time. What is it that's holding you back? It's the same thing that's holding me back. The only thing that holds me back is Tim.
Tim Smith was the kind of fella folks counted on. Masters in social work, ran an assisted living community in Ocala, always showed up for his people. 8 years married to Herbert Swilly, who went by Herb, living in the Citrus Park neighborhood with Herb's daughter, Jordan. Weekends, you might catch Tim and Herb easing down the road on a three-wheeler, wind in their faces and not a care in the world. But come Saturday, March 25th, 2023, about 10:45, deputies rolled out for a welfare check. Tim had missed work, which just wasn't like him. They used a landlord's key, stepped inside a little apartment tied to Tim, and the room told a story no one wanted to hear. Injuries to his face and neck, a tight mark at the throat, and that sharp, bleachy smell hanging in the air. Trouble had come calling. Thursday, the 23rd, Tim left work around 4. After that, it's all timestamps and taillights. Prosecutors said the violence didn't begin in that apartment at all. It started back at the house Tim shared with Herb. Said Tim had an extreme dose of diphenhydramine, Benadryl's sleepy cousin, more than 30 times the usual, then a ligature around his neck. Later, they said his body was moved to that small meet-up apartment and staged like a fling gone wrong. Now, the defense tried to plant doubt. That apartment saw traffic, dating apps, visitors, mixed DNA. Maybe detectives got tunnel vision, but there was a thread to pull. In the deep hours of March 24th, a white pickup, Herb's, caught on camera headed toward the apartment, then back home. Tim's Jeep shows up there and stays. A figure walks away into the dark. Next morning, deputies enter, find Tim on the floor. Body cam captures the moment they tell Herb his husband is dead. He doesn't ask how, just starts in on where he'd been. Earlier that same day, Herb had called the sheriff, couldn't reach Tim. said 2 nights before they watched TV, went to bed. He left early for the gym, came home to an empty house, figured Tim went on to work. Investigators later said parts of that tale were false or self-serving, and when they pressed, Herb's lawyer wanted immunity before he'd say another word. Then came more. The couple's Ring camera system accessed, the key footage deleted according to the state. Jordyn testified she heard noises that night and helped throw things away at her father's direction, something she regrets, and that he told her to say he'd been home all night. Neighbors near the house remembered late-night shouting around March 23rd to 24th and cars coming and going, traffic that stopped cold after the homicide. Friends from AA and Tim's work circle said Herb was bullying about money and about Tim looking at a job out of country with a Zoom interview set for 9 a.m. on the 24th. He never made it. A recruiter said Tim was enthusiastic. Brookdale co-workers described the scramble when he didn't show. The landlord said Tim alone held that lease. On the 25th, Herb asked for entry, said he'd lost his key. A shop owner and a close friend recalled Herb moving quick, donating Tim's things, cleaning the Jeep so police wouldn't have ammunition, talking insurance and paperwork sooner than felt right. A DNA analyst with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement explained most items showed Tim's DNA. A few mixed profiles fit with the apartment's known use. The defense leaned on that. The state answered with the digital map, Tim's phone, and Herb's truck, leaving home together just before 2 a.m. No credible sign Tim arranged any late-night meet with someone else. And then the why. Part heartbreak, part arithmetic. Tim was the primary earner, eyeing that new job and maybe a new start. If he left, the money went with him. If he died, prosecutors said, Herb stood to benefit. Retirement funds and a life insurance policy around $333,000. After a week of testimony, jurors had the full picture. The drug levels, the ligature, the bleach, the truck and the Jeep, deleted video, tossed drugs, the finances, the plan to move. On Friday, September 19th, 2025, they returned a verdict. Herbert Swilly, guilty of premeditated first-degree murder. Judge Robert Hodges handed down life, with 687 days time served. And somewhere in Ocala, the elders Tim championed were tended by someone else that weekend. Friends stepped out of a courthouse into the Florida sun, searching for words that fit a man who didn't miss work, didn't miss promises, and this time couldn't come. Not the ending he earned, but at least, finally, an answer.